All right, chapter 6 and 7 of the book Spiritual Leadership. Going to be insights from leadership on Paul in chapter 6, and chapter 7 is Peter. And as we see here, Paul, he takes several different qualifications in different areas and begins to evaluate how we're doing in some of those areas. So we see here, it says, a natural leader by any measure, Paul becomes a great spiritual leader when his heart and his mind were captured by Jesus. We see that when he began to have this passion for Jesus, he was already a natural leader in a lot of ways, but for him, his ambition and desire that he had was put towards Christ and focused on him, and really made a huge difference because of that. So the different qualifications Oswald Sanders uses with Paul's life comes from the idea of social qualifications. With respect to relationships within the church, the leader is to be above reproach. With respect to relationships outside the church, the spiritual leaders to enjoy a good reputation. So either way, you want to make sure you have a reputation that's worthy of following God. Now, I, I remember a quote that I've heard many times, and it was an unknown author, but it says this. It says, live in such a way that if someone were to say something bad about you, no one would believe it. And that's what it means to have a good reputation outside of the walls where you are. People will criticize you, people will say things, but as a whole, is your reputation something that uh, uh, shows the characteristics of someone who's following Christ? Also, moral qualifications. A leader cannot allow secret indulgence that would undermine public witness. Mental qualifications. Are you prudent? A person with sound judgment. This is something that do you have restraint in situations? Are you respectable? Personality qualifications are if you would rather pick a fight than solve a problem, don't consider leading a church. Don't consider being a leader in a church. Don't go around trying to pick a fight with people. Be gentle, show hospitality, and all. You want to be able to love people. Uh, the domestic qualifications, the idea of are you, a leader cares for church and the missions and the people they're leading. Question is, are you neglecting your family in the process? Be someone who loves your family. Maturity, spiritual maturity is indispensable to good leadership. Someone who maybe is not ready shouldn't be pushed into it too quickly. We should begin to say, what are the ways that we can grow, and know that it's okay if something takes time for us to grow as a leader. It's okay if something takes a while for us to be nurtured and to become opportunity to lead in a bigger way later. And we begin to see that kind of falls out in a lot of our lives. And Paul was one of those kind of people that reflected some of these characteristics, and he was someone that made a huge difference and so many people. And so we need to begin asking ourselves, how are we doing in some of those areas? Now, when we look at Peter, Peter is a little different. He had a little different level of what he talked about versus what Paul talked about. Peter tended to be one that talked about in like 1 Peter 5:2. See that your flock of God is properly fed and cared for. That's the prime responsibility of a shepherd. Peter deals with the leader's motivations. Oswald talks about that. He says, when God calls us, we can't refuse from a sense of inadequacy. How many times we say, I can't do something, or I can't lead in that way because I just don't think I'm good enough, or I don't think I know enough? Well, that shouldn't be the reason we don't want to step forward and try to learn how to become a good leader or to grow in those areas. A Christian leader must not be dictatorial. A leader must be a worthy example of the people. Um, if done as God wants, then leadership will surely include prayer too. Are you praying for people? Are you praying for others? Are you praying for God to do something really big in your life and others' lives as well? You also must be clothed with humility, 1 Peter 5:5. Do you look at the things happening around you, and are you someone who says, God, I understand that I need you to be able to do God-sized things? Or are you someone who says, I got this, I'm going to take care of it, it's on me, it's my strength, it's me, and therefore you seek the rewards of that? And being clothed with humility puts the emphasis on the fact that it's about God as the reason why we're leading in the first place, in the purpose of it. So those are kind of a couple of insights from those two chapters. You can kind of take a look a little bit more and see, but but really, as we begin to see about Peter's teaching, it tends to be something that we can begin to look at some of our own mistakes or own things in our life and think maybe from his mistakes in his life, what have you learned from him, but also what do we learn from our own mistakes? So, thanks.